Welcome, everybody, to the return of Ask Soap Anything. That's right, ladies and jelly spoons. Ask Soap Anything is back, and we have questions. How do we have questions? Well, I sent this out on Twitter and on Discord, gave the wonderful assassins on their first shot, and some questions came in, and I've already got a lot of questions, but if you want to get involved in asking the questions, all you gotta do on here on the YouTube, leave a comment with your question, use the hashtag AskSoap. If you want to go on Twitter, same thing, hashtag AskSoap with your question. If you want to do it on Discord, do it. Go on with your bad self. Hashtag AskSoap. Now, let's get into today's topic. Today's questions. That's right, multiple questions. Because I found a test online that will not only answer some of these questions, specifically one question, but it does segue into some others. So Joker asked, are you on the right, left, or center of the political spectrum / your political ideology? Joker also asks opinions on President Trump. Also, your thoughts on religions, and do you have one? And then I'll bundle this one in because it works with this. What is the meaning and or purpose of life? We're hitting the heavy hitters right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get real. We're going to go to this particular test that I have actually taken before, so I know roughly how it's going to be. This is politicalcompass.org/test. It's basically just asks you a bunch of different questions that kind of get an idea of where you lie on the political spectrum. Now, I would assume this is more American-based, if you will. There are questions that do pertain to kind of how you view the world and all that fun stuff, but I'm going to assume, and I can really only base it off of my viewpoints as someone who, you know, was born, raised, and lives in America. Just a few propositions to start with concerning, no less, how you see the country and the world. Question 1. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. So we're talking, you know, economic globalization, more or less the globalization of wealth and money and, you know, things in that realm. At least that's how I interpret this. It's not really even a question. It's just, how do I feel that it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations? So corporations, their, you know, main goal is to make money. They're businesses, so that's what they want to focus on. Their money, their shareholders, things like that. Now, should it primarily serve humanity? Realistically, in my ideal world, yeah, sure. Let's, you know, for the greater good. Yes, that's how I feel. Is it real? Not necessarily, but is it how I feel? It is. So I'm going to just agree, not, you know, disagree, not strongly, you know, nothing like that. I would agree because I think, yes, they should have some focus on more of a humanitarian effort, benefit the people rather than themselves. But at the same time, they don't have to. It's not their business necessarily. There certainly are businesses that are focused on more humanitarian efforts, you know, nonprofits and things of that nature, but at the same time, that what's stopping, you know, say like currently like a Google or an Apple or an Amazon, you know, those big kind of companies that, you know, they can also focus on doing more humanitarian things. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. I strongly disagree with that. I am not one of those people that just because I am American means that I support everything we do. I most certainly don't. I feel that everyone, and this is worldwide, this isn't just American speaking, you have a right to disagree, to question, for inquiry, to be skeptical, things of that nature. So no, I definitely would not always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. Most certainly not. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I wouldn't say so. There's nothing wrong with being proud of the country you're from. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you want to be proud of where you're from? Go ahead. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. I'm going to strongly disagree because that comes off as a rather racist kind of statement, you know, taking... There's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are, where you're from, but to say that a particular race has superior qualities, that's, you know, very narrow-minded and definitely not how I feel. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I understand what they're saying, you know, that if you have an enemy, then if that individual, that country, that whatever has an enemy, then obviously they're your friend. I will disagree with that. You know, it's not a blanket statement that just applies to everything. No, sir. That enemy of your enemy could also be your enemy. I mean, let's just be realistic about it. There's not a lot, at least for me, to explain here. It's just, I disagree. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. This one I wish this test had more of a neutral on, because, okay, if there are laws in place, it's generally the better idea to obey those laws. However, under different circumstances, I could see where, yeah, that could be justified. It's really whose point of view are you coming at it from? Whose point of view are you seeing it from? And from where I'm sitting, it's like I can see a case on either side. That's why I wish there was a neutral one. However, in this case, this particular case, I'm just going to go agree that, yeah, I get that there can be certain situations that you gotta go around the law. I can see that. But like I said, I really wish there was a neutral for questions or statements like this. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Again, another question I wish there was a neutral on, but honestly, I'm gonna lean towards disagree. Information and entertainment, there's nothing wrong with meshing the two. So it's definitely not a worrying amount. I wish they would elaborate more on what information and what entertainment. I'm definitely going to lean towards disagree because, you know, for example, if it's more education getting mixed with your entertainment, that's great. If it's, for example, some Hollywood actor telling you how you should vote, I'll disagree, you know, with that. I don't think that's necessarily the best place for it. Now, obviously, I'm all for people having their opinion and wanting to state it and things like that, but to say that they're the authority on this kind of thing when they're not necessarily equipped and educated to speak to it, that's, you know, that's what I'm talking about. But if, well, again, I'll go back to education. If you want to educate and you want to make it entertaining, all for it. So I'm going to disagree with it. All right, so this is now the economy. We're talking attitudes here, not the FTSE index. This is, I'll be perfectly honest, something I don't know a lot about. Alright, people are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I'll disagree. Not strong on this one, but I'll disagree. Namely because of where I grew up, namely in Texas, in the South. I've seen more division based on nationality, race, things of that nature, really dumb stuff like that, rather than class. I mean, obviously it does happen, but in my personal experiences, which is all I can really draw from, I've seen more of that national, racial side of it than by class, you know, upper class, middle class, lower class. You know, I've never really seen that much of it in person as compared to the other, so I'll just disagree with it. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I can see pros and cons to either one. You know, inflation, prices of things going up, things of that nature. Hopefully wages would obviously go along with it. But at the same time, if more people had more jobs, there could potentially be more money to stimulate the economy and people take care of themselves. So, you know, at least that's how I'm viewing it. Inflation, is it more important than unemployment? I will disagree. I will disagree with that. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. I could see why they would say that, because as I said previously, a corporation, their profits, their shareholders, that's kind of their, you know, main focus. But yeah, I would say they require some regulation. You know, it obviously depends on a lot of different factors, things that I really can't speak to. I'm not equipped, educated, knowledgeable enough to speak to, but the little bit that I do have, I would say, sure, yeah, some regulation, because obviously you don't want some, you know, gas and oil company, any waste they have, let's just dump it into the water, you know, things like that. We don't want that. We want clean water and a clean and healthy environment. So yes, I would agree. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. From each, like what are you giving to society, to the culture, to humanity, even on a greater scale. It's like from each according to your ability. So if there's someone who's exceptional at doing one thing and someone who's really, really bad at that same thing, you don't want to necessarily expect the same from each of them. And then what do they get based on their need? I would agree. It's a fundamentally good idea, not necessarily the most realistic. Let's be honest. It's not really the most realistic idea, but on paper, it does sound like a good idea, so I'll agree. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. I'll actually strongly disagree. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money, dollar bills, y'all. And there's nothing wrong with making a profit. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with making money. Yeah, if it's getting access to water, if the only way to do it was to go through a corporation to get this bottled water, okay, I could sway my opinion on it at that point. But to say that it's, you know, a sad reflection on society that drinking water is a, you know, commodity, that's basically it's bottled and it's branded and all that, I'll say I'll strongly disagree. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. I will also strongly disagree. I think that if you have land and you want to sell it, you should be able to. If you have the ability to buy land, you should be able to. I don't see anything wrong with that. Is it regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society? I wish there was a neutral for this, because, like I said previously, I wish, yeah, if you want to make money and also contribute to society, great. But at the same time, if you're talking about manipulating money, you could talk about people who are in finance, just in general. Their job is to move money around, to manage money and things of that nature. So I'll say I'll disagree. I'm leaning more towards disagree. Now we're getting into something I, up front, don't necessarily know a lot about. I know a smidgen. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. The little bit, little bit I know on what protectionism is being sometimes necessary in trade, I will say agree. I won't expand upon it much because I don't know much about it. Being completely transparent, completely honest. Let's keep going. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Now, fundamentally, that's pretty much what it is, but I personally think that if a company can, and they are able to do something beyond that, more humanitarian, and contribute to society based on, you know, what they're able to contribute and their means and resources and all that, I think they should be able to deliver more than just the profit. So I'm going to lean towards disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Are they too highly taxed? Honestly, I don't know, because I have seen arguments on both sides of it, that they're really highly taxed and that they're not taxed enough. I've heard both, and I honestly haven't really come to a conclusion. So again, I wish there was a neutral right in the middle there. I will say I lean towards, I'm not the biggest fan of taxes in general, so I'm going to lean ever so slightly towards agree. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Excuse me. I would say I would agree. In fact, I would strongly agree. If you've got the money to afford the best doctor or the best surgeon or whatever, then by all means go ahead. I don't see anything wrong with, you know, hey, I've got this money, I can use it, have at it. I see nothing wrong with it there. I can see the side of everyone should have access to the same standard. I'll agree with that. But if you can pay extra and get even better, by all means, go ahead. I don't see anything wrong with that. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I will strongly agree with that. Not a lot to really explain there. It's just if a business misleads the public on like some sort of false advertising or produces a product that's extremely unsafe and markets it as a safe product, then yeah, I think there should be a penalty for something like that. So we'll strongly agree. Talking about free market stuff, which, similar to a previous question, I'm not really the most educated on, but let's try to get into this as best as I can. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Restrictions. So the idea, let's break this down a little bit. A genuine free market, my understanding is that you can free market, kind of do what you want, set your own prices in a very condensed, dumb way is how I understand it. So a genuine free market means there would be no restrictions. However, when it talks about creating monopolies, I'm personally not a fan of that. I like options. I like competition between businesses, because then you can get better products, innovation, differences, price differences, things of that nature. So this one, it's kind of hard to answer, because the statement of a genuine free market requires restrictions, I can see where they're going, because if it is indeed a free market and people can kind of set their own prices, then cool, and then that would basically prevent monopolies. So I'll lean towards agree. The freer the market, the freer the people. I'll disagree with that, because in my understanding, if you have a free market, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a free people in the freedom sense, the liberties sense. So I'll just disagree with that, because I don't think the two necessarily equate. That you have a free market, therefore you must have a free people. I'll disagree. Take a look at some of your personal social values. Ooh, hot topic. Abortion, when a woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I will strongly disagree with that. I am very much in favor of a woman's right to choose. Very, very much so. All authority should be questioned. I will strongly agree with that. I kind of brought that up in a previous one, that you should question authority. By all means, don't just because they are, you know, quote unquote, the authority, does that make their word the end all be all? Not always. Not always. So yes, I will definitely say all authority should be questioned. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I see that. I kind of interpret that as the punishment fits the crime. I wish there was, again, kind of a neutral on this, but I'm going to lean more towards agree. Not really much to say beyond that. I lean towards agree rather than disagree, but again, I wish there was more neutral. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I'll agree with that. I love the arts. Support the arts. Try to contribute when I can to the arts, but do I think that if there is a business, such as a theater or a museum, that is not doing so well, that I should be obligated to pay for it? No. If they can't survive on their own, does that responsibility, that financial responsibility, fall to me and the rest of the people? I'll say no. No. That's, we should not be expected to do that. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I'll lean towards disagree. If it's a public school, which usually means your taxpayers are paying for it, I would hope that that money is going to good use, and I would hope that people are getting at least a basic education. That's a whole other conversation for how basic the American education system is. But yeah, I would go towards disagree. I think that at least for a public school, there should be some of those kind of guidelines that you gotta go. People are paying for this. If it's like a private school or a home school, I can see something a little different there. But if we're talking public school, let's go. Let's at least do something with the money and put it to good use. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. I'm going to disagree on the strong side that sorts of people should keep to their own kind. That seems very, again, narrow-minded. Like I was saying earlier, it's like, I think that mixing of people and cultures and races and ideas and things like that, that's what we should progress towards and keep doing. I mean, obviously we do it, but we should keep doing it because that's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you expand. Everyone should be able to kind of mix and mingle and share ideas and thoughts and things of that nature. So I will say, yeah, strongly disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I'll agree. I, growing up as a child, had many a spanking. I did something that, my parents or grandparents thought was bad, said was bad. I still did it anyway because I was a wonderful child. And I would get a spanking. I've had to cut my own switch. If you are older or raised around more old school, you probably know what that means, but I had to cut my own switch as well. Now, if you get to that point where you're beating a child, no. We're done. That's a whole different thing. But a spanking, a little trying to get them in line, I don't see anything wrong with that. Good parents sometimes have to spank their kids. I think that that's fine. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. I'll very much strongly agree with that. It is natural that, yeah, there's things you want to keep private. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Possessing marijuana, that's sticky icky, for personal use should not be a criminal offense. I will strongly agree with that. Now, am I myself a user of the marijuana? No. But in saying that, I don't think if you want to sit there and get high for personal use, go ahead. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I'm glad they use the word prime because I, as I've stated, am a big fan of the arts and proponent, so things like music, art, things like that do get taught in schools. I think that should still be a thing. However, I think one thing at least that was missing from my schooling was how to use your education to find a job, to find something not only that you enjoy, but that can make you money. I'll agree with this. There's certain things that you should be taught, your essentials, how to read, how to write, how to count, do math, those basics, but at the same time, it should start, as you get older and further along, it should start to be more curbed and cultivated for your interests and job opportunities and things you're passionate about. Some tweaks there, I feel, would be good. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. I'll disagree with that. I think, if it's two consenting adults who want to reproduce and they themselves have disabilities, they should totally be allowed to do that. It's their choice, it's their right. So yes, I will disagree with that one. The most important thing for a child to learn is to accept discipline. We're going to strongly disagree. My opinion, the most important thing for a child to learn is curiosity. Be curious about the world around them, how things work, why things are the way they are. I think that's the most important thing, is to learn curiosity, to cultivate that curiosity. So yeah, we're going to strongly disagree with that. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. I'll disagree with that. There are most certainly some savage people, you know, and not in the cool way of saying, oh, they're savage, bro. You know, not that. I'm talking like, you know, genocidal, homicidal peoples that, you know, throughout history have done those things, and yet they thought of themselves as civilized. So, yeah, it's not, that's how they do things in a culture like this. No. It's just there's some people who are legit straight savage. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I'll agree. If you, the way I'm interpreting this is, you are physically, mentally, and emotionally able to work. Doesn't matter what the job is, but you're able to work. And you say, nah, don't want to work. And therefore you turn around and expect everyone else to provide you with support, whether it be financial or whatever. I'm against that. It's like, if you, for lack of a better word, if you want to be lazy, I don't really think that the rest of society should be expected to support you. Simple as that. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I will disagree. I can understand both sides of this because I've done both sides of this plenty of times. Yes, there are certain things you do want to confront, at least in my opinion, that you want to confront and work them out. And do it in an expeditious way, because it can be more detrimental for you to just not deal with it. But there are times where it may not be the most important thing at that moment, and hey, keep yourself busy. Let's, you know, keep your mind on all these other more positive things. Look, a cute puppy. So yeah, there's places for both sides, depending on what it is. Again, I really wish there was a neutral, but I'll lean towards disagree. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated with their new country. I will disagree with that. I feel that if you go to another country, if you immigrate, that given enough time, depending on how long that time is, you can definitely be fully integrated into that, whether it be learning the language, the culture, you know, whatever aspect you want to incorporate in that, whatever viewpoint you want to come at it. Is it possible to become fully integrated in the first generation of immigrants? I would most certainly say yes. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for us all. I will strongly disagree. The way I look at it is, just because a corporation is successful does not mean that that's good for all of us. Gasoline and oil companies, some of the most successful businesses on the planet. However, they're quite harmful to the planet. So no, it's not great for us all at all times. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I would disagree that there is a place for a broadcasting institution, whether it be television, radio, or even internet broadcasts. Yeah, receiving public funding, I think there's a place for it. It just all depends on the content, in my opinion. 4 of 6, how you see the wider society. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I will lean towards the agree on that. It's something I personally feel strongly about. So yes, I would agree with that. I don't want to say strongly agree, because I don't think it's gotten to that point where I personally feel like it's completely out of control. It hasn't gotten there yet, but I would definitely agree with it. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay process in a democratic political system. Well, I will disagree with that as well. I can see what they're trying to say, that, hey, if there's only one person in charge, it avoids all the arguments. Well, not necessarily. So yeah, I'm gonna disagree. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Here we go. We hit something that, again, personally, very strong opinions on. Only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. I feel that everyone needs to be worried about surveillance, privacy, things of that nature. Only wrongdoers need to be worried? No. Everyone needs to be worried. You know, that's where my point of view is when it comes to like electronic surveillance and privacy, is that you should be worried about the information that you're putting out there, that you're giving to various companies, websites, things of that nature. So yeah, this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. So the only wrongdoers need to be worried? Strongly disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I have no issue with the death penalty if it fits the crime, kind of back to that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth thing. We'll go with agree. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Not a big fan of that. However, I will say that that's kind of how our society, being the American society, more or less is that you've got people at the top with the money and the making the rules and the laws and things like that, and then there's people below who just have to unfortunately deal with it in some cases. But in a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. In a civilized society, you know, it's like, I wish I could say, oh, here's a civilized society that didn't have that, you know, somewhere back in history, that didn't have a ruler, a king, a queen, you know, whatever the case may be, or rulers, but I can't think of one. At least not off the top of my head. I'm not a historian, though, so sorry. I don't have all of that information. I personally can't think of one, so I'm going to lean towards agree. I wish there was neutral, but I'm going to lean towards agree. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. I'm going to disagree. On the strong side, I'm a fan of art, the arts. And I've been to plenty of modern art museums where there's things that I personally am like, this is garbage, why is this here? However, the artist who made that piece of garbage, in my opinion, felt that it was art. And who am I to say that they're wrong? We just have a differing opinion, and that's all. I will say, again, strongly disagree, because if the abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art, no, that's most certainly not the case. Let's move on. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Again, it depends. It depends. Like, for example, if it's, you know, well, marijuana was brought up. If it's like a small drug offense, for example, a non-violent drug offense, and if it's something that's more rehab-oriented, then we're just going to punish the person, then let's go with the rehab option. But if it's, you know, something like, you know, theft, murder, you know, something like that, then we should go more towards the punishment side. There's some things that can't be rehabilitated, and there's some things where the punishment could be severely less. You know, it's kind of hard to say. Punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. It depends. I wish there was a neutral, but in this case, I'm going to lean towards disagree. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Well, if we just take that statement that it's a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some, sure, there are cases of that. There are cases where it's not true. But yeah, it's like, if you cannot rehabilitate, you know, this particular individual for this particular crime or series of crimes, things like that, I can see why it could be a waste of time, so I'm going to lean towards agree. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree. I've explained plenty throughout this video why that would be. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Strongly disagree. Ladies, get out there, do what the men do, and do it better. You go, girl. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I mean, that might be the case. Now, just as a blanket statement that all multinational companies are doing that, that's got to be wrong, you know, because then that would be more news that every single multinational company is doing this heinous stuff. So I'm going to lean towards disagree. Are there some cases of it? Sure. But is it like multinational companies are doing this, just all of them? No. So we're going to disagree. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. We're going to strongly disagree. That goes back to the question authority thing that I was saying earlier. That, yeah, you can understand that there's an establishment, but do you have to be okay with it and the way things are? And that's how, you know, that's an aspect of maturity? No. No, question authority. The establishment can always change. If you got through that, okay, you'll find these propositions on religion a breeze, which is why I brought up the question about religion and, you know, the meaning of life. You know, your thoughts on religions, and do you have one, and what is the meaning and or purpose of life? This is why I wanted to bring those into here. Astrology accurately explains many things. I'm going to strongly disagree because astrology is garbage. It has no basis in science or fact at all. For those of you who don't know what astrology is, it's basically your daily horoscope. Because you were born at a certain date and a certain time, that somebody's able to say, oh, you're having a good or a bad day because of this, and fortune will come to you. No. Strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. I strongly disagree. Now, why would I ever say that? And I've said this before, it's because I am an atheist. Now, am I militant? And if someone on here said, hey, I'm Christian, I'm Jewish, I'm Muslim, I'm Catholic, you know, any of the tons of religions out there, would I say that you're wrong? Never. I would never ever do that, because your beliefs are your beliefs and mine are mine. I've been an atheist, or at least I've been a skeptic of things like this since I was about 9 or 10. It's just, I was raised in a family that did go to church, but when I got there and you know, it's like the lessons were taught and the Bible was read and all that other stuff, I'm like, at least to me, something doesn't make sense, something doesn't sound right. And as I got older, it's like, oh, this is why, and this is why, and I started getting answers to those, you know, thoughts of like, why doesn't this make sense? So yeah, it's just me. But again, not militant about it, I'm not going to be in anyone's face about it. But if someone were to come to me and try to tell me I'm wrong, then that's a whole different thing. I think your moral compass is not based on your religion. It should just be, are you a good human or are you not? Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Is it better? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because there's some really bad charities or quote-unquote charitable organization. There's some really good ones. I've donated to some, and I know that, you know, where that money is going and who it's going to and all of that. Are you trying to get more on the political side of saying that charity's better than Social Security because there's some people who want to get rid of Social Security? I don't know. I'm not sure. And it also says the genuinely disadvantaged. So this is a multifaceted question that I don't think that these are a good answer to. However, I'm going to lean towards agree. Just lean, just slightly. I wish there was a neutral, because the statement, the way I'm reading it, it's like, I don't know. Where are you going with this one? Some people are naturally unlucky. I'm going to strongly disagree. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe luck exists. I think there's, you know, fortunate and unfortunate, but luck, I don't think luck exists. Sure, have I used that word? You know, oh man, I was lucky on this. Sure. But do I actually genuinely believe that luck exists? No, I don't. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. I think that there should be no religion in schools. However, if someone does want to put their child into a school that has, it's like a religious school, that is fine. But if we're talking to, like, if I took my kid to a public school, no. Because the way I look at it is, well, if you want to be fair, you either teach all religions and do it in an unbiased way, or you teach none. You can't just sit there and say, oh, no, we're a public school, but we're going to instill these good Christian values. Well, what about all these other values that other religions have as well? So, and a lot of them are shared with yours. So it's all or nothing, in my opinion. That's why it's not important, because again, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in those things. But yeah, we'll go strongly disagree. Finally, a look at sex. Oh yeah. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree, because my personal belief, that's dumb, and almost in a way it's unnatural. I'm pretty sure pretty sure, I don't have facts to back this up, I haven't talked to most people, but I'm pretty sure that most people who have had sex have done it outside of marriage. I'm going to just make a big assumption on that, but immoral? Am I going to just say everybody's immoral? No. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Of course, they should not be excluded. No. Doesn't matter same-sex or multi-sex. It doesn't matter. If you're in a stable, loving relationship, yeah, you should be able to adopt a child, provided you go through the process that anyone else would. No. Gay, straight, lesbian, otherwise, doesn't matter. You should be afforded all the same rights as everyone else. Pornography, depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Well, I would say it is currently, and I think it still should be. You wanna try to make it illegal, that's a lot of frustrated individuals out there in the world. But no, if it's consenting adults, sure, do your thing. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I will strongly agree. What's going down in my room is my business. I don't want the government in my business. What I do, how I do my freak thing. That goes back to the whole privacy thing that I was talking about previously. No one can feel naturally homosexual. I will strongly disagree with that. I'm completely against that statement that no one can feel naturally. No. It is most certainly a natural thing. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I would disagree with that. I mean, I think there's a time and a place. The way I look at, again, looking at America, I think there's such a stigma on sex that it's still like this, ooh, it's so taboo, yet it's one of the most natural things that we do. I think it should be more open to an extent, of course. Oh, it's perfectly okay to show all of this violence, to talk about all of this violence, but anything regarding sex, oh no, taboo. And oh yeah, we should bring that to a more balanced thing, that we should be more open about it, but again, within limits. I mean, I'm not going to be unreasonable and just say, oh, everything goes, woo! No, there should be some limitations, but at the same time, we should be more open about it. Why don't we talk about it like it's natural and not make it such this, oh, hush-hush subject? On to the finish. Oh, yeah. It talks about kind of how you fall in a case like this. So authoritarian, libertarian, on the right, on the left. So there's a social scale going up and down, and then there's your economic scale going left and right. So you got authoritarian left, libertarian right, authoritarian right. So that's what this scale is. Here's where I am. I am pretty much in the middle, on the left or the right, and I lean more libertarian. So yeah, that's the way I am. I'm very neutral. Now, to expand upon it, because what's my political ideology? I don't really have one. I'm 34 currently, and I've never once voted. So why have I not voted? There's a ton of reasons, but I just never have. I've never felt compelled to. There's some people who are probably upset that, you know, I'm not a real American. You have to exercise your right to vote. But it's because it's a right to vote. You don't necessarily have to use every right that's afforded to you. In my opinion, there's never been, when it comes to presidents anyway, I'm not going to speak of like other politicians because I don't really get into politics. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't really get into it. But as far as, we'll just talk about presidents since I've been able to vote. So the past 16 years, I haven't seen anyone that has compelled me to vote for them. I just view them all as very similar with, you know, they're all very similar with a few different ways of spinning things. You know, I don't think that there's much difference between a lot of them. You know, yeah, they try to present themselves in one way, but when it comes down to it, you know, they're all very similar. I'm not saying they're all the same. There's some outliers, of course, but no one inspires me when it comes to politics. No one that I've seen. I've seen some people that I'm like, you seem like you'd be interesting to talk to, but that's about it. You know, you know what I'm saying? So, opinions on President Trump. I'm not a fan, but at the same time, do I go around and criticize him? No. And why don't I criticize? Because I didn't vote, so I don't really have a say-so in it. I've never criticized any president on anything ever, or any politician. I just go based on feel. Like, I knew of Donald Trump before, well before he was president. I didn't like him. He just comes across as a scumbag, sleazy businessman, you know, that kind of thing, with his dumb hair. So my opinions on him are, I don't really care for him, and that's about it. Do I think about him? No. Do I have to read about him? I mean, if I open up Reddit on any given day, there's something. And will I read it? Sometimes, just because I'm bored. But do I have any strong opinions on him? No. Do I have any strong opinions on when it comes to politics in general? No. You saw what my strongest opinions were in that whole test. Moving on past that, am I on the left, right, or the center? Center, and I lean more towards libertarian. I've, in the past couple of years, because some people that I follow online, like whether it be on Twitter or on YouTube, have brought up libertarian, and I'm like, I've heard the word, but I don't know much about it. So I've researched a very small smidgen about it, and I'm like, that sounds like kind of the way I think. Obviously not on everything, but you know, I'm like, okay, if like someone gunned to my head, pick, I would go that way. But at the same time, no one's holding a gun to my head, and my thoughts are just my thoughts, and my feelings are my feelings, and my beliefs are my beliefs. As far as the religion, as I said, I'm an atheist, and I have been since I was a kid. I just didn't know what to call it at the time. And that, again, that's pretty much the extent of it. I'm not going to say I don't like saying it, but at least where I'm from, who I grew up around, that is a very bad thing to say, is that you're an atheist. You know, it's like I grew up in Texas, part of the Bible Belt, so, you know, with a religious, not really religious family, don't get me wrong, they're not like church on every Sunday and Wednesday and this, that, and the other. Yeah, there's religious people in my family. I've dated religious people in my past, and it's been a problem sometimes. And it's like, I don't like getting into it because it's just one of those things that, yeah, if someone pushes me, I'll defend myself, but I don't try to put my views on anyone and try to tell them they're wrong and I'm right. I don't like doing that. I really don't. And then, what's going to be the downer? What is the meaning and or purpose of life? I look at it in two ways. The meaning of life and the purpose. There isn't one. Oh no. You mean life has no meaning? No. Your life has a meaning. My life has a meaning. Is it the same? No, because your life is what you make it. That's what I think. That's what I feel. That's what I believe. To quote Terminator 2, there's no fate but what we make for ourselves. And that's how I feel. The meaning of life is what you make it, and how you build it, and what you're able to do with the hand that you're dealt. if you will. So, that's it. This is most certainly a different episode than the traditional Ask Soap. There's no video game play, there's none of that. It's just me talking, taking a test for however long this turns out to be. I haven't really looked at the clock. I've just been talking and rambling. So that's it. I already have plenty of other questions lined up, but we're still taking questions. So one more time, in the comments, use the hashtag AskSoap for your question. Twitter, hashtag AskSoap. Discord, hashtag AskSoap. And that's going to do it for this episode. But before I go, as always, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy. And I'll see you guys later.